Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. All right, real quick before we get started on the show, I'm just going to talk about Treeline Academy. You've heard me say it. I can't even tell you how many times. Mark Livesey is treelineacademy.net. That's treelineacademy.net. Sign up. Use the promo code PC2020. Save yourself $20. Can't say it enough. It's awesome, amazing, most comprehensive e-scouting course out there. Check it out for yourself. Sign up. Use promo code PC2020. And now let's get to the show. And I'm talking to Scott Cronin. And Scott, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Luke. Appreciate you having me on the program. I'm a high school agriculture teacher in Western Kentucky that loves to hunt and fish and deal with anything in outdoor recreation across the United States or North America.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you were telling me, you and I talked a little bit earlier a couple times. Tell me about the different things you're involved in and stuff like that with giving back and, extra outreach to not only the youth, but hunters in general. And you want to kind of go over that a little bit and talk about some of that stuff?
Yeah, the last 21 years of my life and being in education, it's opened up the doors for me to get involved after my traditional school day and work with a lot of conservation outreach. And I've been able to work with a lot of companies and in retail to help educate people about products in an unbiased way to help make them not only safer, but more successful in the field. And through the work that I've done in retail and working with companies and going all through a very diverse row over the years with different projects, I've been able to bring that back to my students in the classroom. And it's really gave me a really eye-opening experience overall, because I can see what the trends are and what the markets are doing and see what employers are looking for. But I also get to see every day what tomorrow's consumer and hunter and anglers is going to look like, because I've been working with youth for 21 years. So I get to see what patterns are sticking and what trends are gonna stick around for a while and not just be a fad. And overall, it's kind of like I've got to watch the evolution of a hunter through my high school classroom and give so much back to my students because of the extra opportunities that I've done outside the classroom. And then at the same time, when you work with corporate people and do research and field test products and go to the field and work on that side of things, you truly get to see where corporate America is either blind or just uneducated about what they're missing out on too. So I feel like I've really just had an awesome opportunity, especially in the last 20 years, in the last 10 really strong, to see what's going on in outreach education, retail, and product development. And we kind of ended up crossing paths because of a product that we've both had a tremendous experience with so far, and are satisfied with the results. And the best part about it is when you or I give that recommendation or experience to someone, it's not coming from a hashtag approach or how much am I getting paid to do this. It's coming just from real world experience, and people still appreciate honesty and not the marketing snake oil approach of what product I use and why.
Absolutely. I find that to ring so true, because there's so much stuff out there and so many people that endorse things. And what really irks me is I know of a few people in the hunting industry that you hear things or see things and you're like, wait a minute. I thought you used this or X, Y, and Z. And they're like, well, that's that's my promotional, that's what I get paid by. But no, this is what I actually use. And it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, it really kind of bothers me because there's no longer honesty or integrity there, and you're trusting that person with purchasing a product. And most products, let's face it, hunting products are not cheap by any means because of safety factors or whatever that they have to put into them. And to buy that and use it and go, man, this thing is not worth my time or money, and then realize that that person doesn't even use that is pretty distasteful, distrustful type of thing to do.
Right. And if you look currently right now in hunting and fishing too, really, when you look at the people who are consistently putting protein on the table and um, you know, basically in and out like a revolving door at their taxidermist, there are people who are good scientists. They're athletes. They're staying in shape. There are people who put biology first over marketing and product, and then they utilize products as tools. And on the aspect as far as hunting clothes, you talk about the cost of things. 30 or 40 years ago, you would see people that would be in kind of army issued camo out in the woods, and that was really common. And today, a lot of the technologies that our special forces and special operations teams have been able to utilize in their clothing and gear is available to hunters now because those people who have served our country have gave their service and left or retired, and they've developed clothing lines, and they've carried over that science, innovation, and technology to the general public, and you're paying for some of that material, and you're paying for some of that knowledge and innovation. And um, we need to be thankful too that we have it, and we live in a country of free commerce to where you don't have to buy expensive camouflage, but if you do want to, it's there and it's available.
Yeah, you know what irks me about that though is the technology was developed once. So and then somebody
Right.
takes that technology and then they mark it up a 200 or 300% markup, paying slave wages in another country
Right.
and then selling it over here and gouging the American people. And that's
Right.
like when I found out, like there was a company that I found out about that was actually making the stuff over here 100% American made, utilizing stuff that was normally government contracts and stuff like that. That's when I really got excited. And the fact to know that people will text me or call me and be like, "Hey man, what was that brand?" And then they look at it and go, "Oh, that's more expensive than Sitka." Yeah, you're willing to spend money on Sitka. And no offense to anybody that's wearing it, but you're willing to spend money on something that's made in China and has 100 and something 200% markup, that has, a million members on their pro staff that are promoting it on social media, but you won't pay an extra $60 knowing it's going to American wages. Like, to me,
Right.
that bothers me a little bit.
Yep.
But
Yep.
no,
No, and there's never been a better time. If there's people out there that are listening to this podcast, for whatever reason, just to see, what is the talk on the modern hunter. There's never been a better opportunity for hunting products to capitalize on the USA and American made. If you're still watching the news and reading the papers, you got cargo containers that are full of product that we can't get off the water for God knows what reasons. And you've got people that are willing to pay a little bit more. And it's just like I told a group of people the other day, at some point in time, you're going to pay whatever you're going to have to pay, because if it's not available, then that's just supply and demand. And most people like you and myself, I'll never blink an eye at paying more over something that's made in Michigan or Iowa or Kentucky or Illinois or wherever you're at. I mean, I'm a big believer and supporter of the red, white, and blue, and I think it's important for people to ask questions and research, just like they scout their deer or their turkeys or fish, whatever. Figure out what these companies are made of, and figure out what's their contributing factor to employment and conservation, and what are they doing to give back to the hunters and conservation.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about that then, because I mean, the whole reason we met was actually because of Tuebor saddles, and pretty cool company out of Michigan. I ended up meeting them at the Genesis 3D saddle tune-up event up there in Michigan, and tried out their saddle firsthand. And immediately after I sat in it, a million things were running through my head, and I'm like, this has to be one of the most comfortable, most adjustable saddles that I could sit in. And not only that, but it had the upper back support without having to add a like a recliner attachment to it or any of those kind of things. And it's really lightweight. What was your thoughts on that when because you and I were talking about you were doing a little bit of research and kind of reached out to them to find out a little bit more about the product and stuff. How did that all happen?
Yeah, well, and we'll backtrack a little further too. At 43 years of age, I've watched a lot of names change and go away, and I've watched a lot stay around when it comes to hunting from any type of elevated position. And being in the agriculture background, looking at forestry, arborist type work, and looking in the outdoor recreation area, and then looking also into first responders and military, from repelling to cutting trees up or whatever it is. I've kind of been around this stuff for a while as far as how you can support yourself and work from an elevated position. And you start looking at people that clean windows every day or have to work from suspended heights on fixing or repairing things or building new structures. What we're doing in the saddle hunting aspect of things is things that people are doing every day. I mean, they're putting gear on where basically they're being supported by their lower extremities of their body, um, and then suspending from some type of rope and using descenders and being reliable on knots. So with my background in hunter education and doing avocation and outreach to inform new hunters and how to make them more successful hunters and enjoy their time afield, the big thing that I'm seeing, Luke, is we have people that are getting, legally certified in hunter education across this entire country. And to my knowledge, um, there's not any written curriculum in any publication that is informing people about saddle hunting. And while many of us are sitting around and saying that, hey, this saddle hunting gear and this technique of hunting without a tree stand has been around for a while, but it's just finally truly catching on. And it is. This will not be a fad now. I mean, saddle hunting is successful, and we'll talk about the future of what that's going to mean to tree stand manufacturers also and the hunter's budget. But we're going to have to work hard as a community. It doesn't matter what saddle you run or how comfortable it is. Just out of the gate, we need to make sure that people are using them safe and that they can understand the concept of why it's a tool. And it may be the only way that you hunt, and it may just be adding to the diversity in the way that you hunt. But I have so many people that have come to me in the last 2 years, especially, to promote or utilize their saddle and even get paid to use their product. And I've turned it all down. And I have to keep that unbiased approach because my focus is more about giving back and education and outreach. It's not about padding my pockets and doing what's best for me to obtain a hunt in this state or that state or to get extra income from working with this or that company. And when I reached out and I talked to Blake over there, the the attraction, I guess, of seeing eye to eye and having similar interests was there. And my height and my size, I'm 6'1". I'm anywhere from 225 to 240 in my annual weight, depending on what time of the year it is or what type of conditioning I'm trying to do for my health. And I wanted a saddle that was going to work very well in the early season. I wanted a saddle that was going to be very supportive and well built and safe, that I could teach from. and it would be adaptable to a group of people who were skinny and average and above average in size. With my work and being in the public service line of things, you never know when you could be dealing with an individual who is largely obese. You don't know when you're going to be working with an 80-pound child or young adult. You're not sure when you're going to be working with a 165-pound vet that's in tip top shape. And so when I seen that saddle and started trying to educate myself about it, honestly, there was probably less social media information about that Hemlock saddle than any other saddles that were out there. But the material and the exercise, it was appealing to me, because we talked the other day when you were up in Illinois. I'm a biscuit and gravy eating kind of guy. I'm a finish your plate, slop it up with a biscuit kind of guy. And I'm not trying to be grossly overweight, but at the same time, I'm not teaching CrossFit at my local gym. So that saddle,
Yeah.
that appeal of it being bigger was very appealing to me for late season, early season, working with a diverse group of individuals as far as weight and gender, and so I went with it. And there's some features that I thought were better, not having a rope bridge, and uh, the overall appeal to where I could have one saddle that was going to fit a whole line of people. I took the risk. I was, going to buy it and purchase it for that reason, and may not be best for me, but once I got it home, or it was delivered to my home, I got it out. I actually called one of my best friends, Jason Miller, and Jason's been in the outdoor industry for a long, long time, and we kind of discussed it and talked about it, and I was completely blown away, and it wasn't because of marketing or a paycheck or what was being promised to me. It was just it flat is absolutely the best saddle on the market right now today, from my opinion, and I've been in all of them.
Yeah, the only one I haven't been in, and only because I thought it was slightly gimmicky, but at the same time, um, I think it's close to the same adjustability and concept. It'd probably be that Dryad saddle.
Hmm.
It just seems like there's a lot of extra fabric for me. Um,
Yeah.
I don't really like. I've got a buddy who actually was talking about it the other day, and he's like, I think that's kind of great because you could actually fold it up when it's still in the dark and take a little nap, lean back, and it hold your head up and everything. But I'm not really a guy I get too amped up in the tree and get excited and almost got to contain the ADD a little bit and not bounce around and try and be as still as I can. But being in that saddle gets me pretty excited because I know the opportunity is going to be coming by. So, but
Oh yeah.
definitely that Tuebor saddle is the Hemlock is by far my favorite saddle I've ever sat in. And the moment I got my saddle, I posted all the other ones that I owned and put them on a Facebook group and sold them. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
exclusively
I, I
in that
think
now.
I think Yeah, I think the saddle situation is going to be like turkey chokes and shotgun shells from 1985 to 1996. When I kind of look at the era of my life, saddles are something that are just not being carried in a lot of retail stores. It's a lot of direct to consumer sales. And what a lot of folks are doing right now is, my buddy's got this brand saddle and this platform and this step and, this do it yourself adjustment or change to their stick or whatever it is, or they're learning a one stick climbing method. So we're coming together as a community. You're definitely going to have people who are going to be a little bit more biased or protective of a certain brand or name, because there is going to be some sponsorship involved and money going across the table as this product line develops across our industry and across our sport. But I think the main thing that a lot of people are going to have to start considering is, will they utilize a saddle? Will it become a tool? Do they understand the pros and cons of utilizing a saddle? And then how do we inform the average weekend warrior and the average working man and the average female that has a family or is going through college, or is aging and retired, or someone who has some mobility issues. How do we adapt the saddle to where everybody can use it, just not this young, infit, 20-year-old to 35-year-old age range group of individuals as far as our population? Because in honesty, you have to admit, in the last 2 years, the YouTube and podcast community has absolutely uh, made every saddle company and stick company and platform company successful.
Absolutely. I think it's uh, kind of a big misconception that you need to be flexible or agile or any of those things to do it. In fact, I find that I can't sit and do an all day sit. I cannot do one in a hang on tree stand unless it's like an absolute recliner. And even then I got to move around so much to get up. And, you can't sit in a recliner all day. Or, I mean, maybe some people can, but for me, I can't, and I need to get up and stand up. So I find that I'm mostly a stander anyway. And then if I just need to take a little bit of break, I lean in the saddle. But it used to be at the end of deer season, or even in the middle of deer season, after a couple all day sits, I would be to the point to where I'd have to go to the chiropractor, a couple times a day for a week to just get myself readjusted and not have any back pain afterwards. And so
Right.
that's what made me switch. But I was just down south, and I mean, you were up north for you in almost in the same area last week or this week, last weekend. And my buddy's dad was climbing and getting in and out of ladder stands and stuff. And I told him, I said, we need to try and get you in a saddle. I said, if you're sore, I don't think it's from walking up and down these hills down here. I said, I honestly think it's from that tree stand you're sitting in. I sat in one of his one day, and I just didn't like it. And at the same time, most people, they don't even bring a harness or anything to get in them. And you want to talk about safety aspect. If your equipment's used properly with a saddle, it's probably the safest means of ascending and descending of any type of equipment out there.
Absolutely. Um, and the thing about it is, you're talking about scouting up in Southern Illinois. I'm going through the whole process of scouting and looking at trees and transition areas and what the scrape activity is and where the rub line is. And the whole time I'm going through there, and I'm making mental notes like, hey, this would be good for a climber, this would be good for a hang on, hey, this would be good for the saddle here. And the aspect of it is, I'm sitting here going through my head, would I sit here, in the morning? Would I approach this after daylight? Would I sit here middle part of the day? There's so many things that we have to we just have to consider. You gotta worry about your health. You gotta worry about sitting in the same spot all day and not moving enough and possibly forming blood clots. You gotta look at the fact that you may possibly have to use the restroom. What are you going to do as far as your food and nutrition? You don't want to get dehydrated. And I know a lot of people that sit on all day sets that they don't want to drink a lot because they have different beliefs about what they do or don't do once their water goes through their bladder. So and you look and you're talking about that lounge chair aspect of hunting. I will say this, you kind of you hit the subjects that's real hot in education with ADD. When you're up in a saddle, that I'm just going to speak from my experience of working with other people. I think people are more alert. I've noticed it's really funny because I've noticed that people are on their phones less. They're looking around more, um, and they're almost in this mindset that like they realize that, hey, they need to be ready, and they're kind of on edge. And I think the reason why, Luke, is because I think once people truly adapt to saddle hunting, um, and are not doing it on the aspect of the convenience of hunting from a saddle, which I hope we do talk about. But it's finally, to me, a saddle hunter is, or a person who has started to saddle hunt, it's a person who has finally admitted to themselves about a few things. Number one, they realize what the potential of the deer age structure and genetics are in their area. Um, they've come to a conclusion on what's going to make them happy with their harvest and filling their tags. But the most important one is they're truly hunting fresh sign, and they're understanding the importance of being mobile and being adaptive, especially with so many of our seasons starting in either September or in October and running all the way through January. And let's face it, most of our state agencies right now are becoming more liberal with the tags, the type of firearms or methods of taking deer than ever before. I think in the Midwest, you're going to start seeing a lot more, uh, center fire rifle regulations allowed and doe only hunts. And I think you're going to start seeing a whole lot of ways where not only revenue can be generated, but ways that we can manage CWD and actually get our deer herd age structure down. So, um, man, there's so many directions we can go here. But at the end of the day, once a person has committed to purchasing a platform and getting their steps together and buying a saddle and looking at whether they have a custom lineman's belt or tether, and they start getting a little bit more adaptive of how they're going to structurally utilize and logistically make sense of their pockets and their materials so that when they're up in the tree, they're not jockeying a backpack or whatever. They're becoming a better hunter, and they're hunting for the right reasons. I think they finally have settled into that stage of they know if they're hunting for inches or if they're hunting for protein, or if they're there to enjoy a hunt on the family farm, or if they've got permission from just knocking on a door, if they're on a lease, um, public ground, out of state hunt, whatever it is. I have found that in the community of hunters, that folks that utilize a saddle, they're on top of their game right now. They're a smarter hunter, and they're still continuing to learn.
Absolutely. I feel like it makes me a more efficient hunter as well because once I put that saddle on, my backpack's already back on. My climbing sticks are hanging there ready to go, and I've got my first stick set. I put on that belt, and I'm up and gone. And when I used to use a hang-on stand, you'd have to either climb back down and get the stand, strap it to your back, then take it off and put it on the tree, or raise it up with a rope. And now everything is right there. The only thing I raise up a rope is after I get completely set up, I raise my bow up. And in my
Yeah,
pockets,
and
underneath my lineman's belt, I have my bow hanger underneath that. And then on the other side, once I put my tether on, or actually underneath my lineman's belt, I have my strap to hang my platform. And that's right there underneath that. So it's always there. I know where it is. I grab it. And then once I hang that platform and I put my tether on the tree, underneath that is my bow hanger strap, and I put that on. And actually, Blake from Tuebor made me a really cool strap, and the strap actually has a lower adjustable portion that I could put a carabiner on and hang my backpack, and it hangs down about around my knee area, was about where I like it. And then once I get that going, I mean, I'm ready to go. If I want to put up a camera arm, I can. If I want to hang my bow and just start hunting or be in position, I'm ready. And it's taken a lot of the guesswork or the uncertainty. And to be honest, before I actually got in a saddle, I never tied off on a tree with a lineman's belt at all. I mean, it's just
mhm.
it's the nature of the game. A lot of people don't do it. They don't think about it. Till you got kids or something like that, most people don't think about it, and they do a lot of crazy stuff. Um, and I mean, you've got places like the Tree Stand Safety Institute and things like that that people do testing of their products and stuff. But I mean, the bottom line is like you said, there's not a whole lot of people educating people on that or the adaptability of them or any of that kind of stuff. So I think it's cool as it's growing that we'll be able to do that and educate people and get them more knowledgeable on those subjects.
Yeah, and the people that are going right now to the workshops and these field training programs, they got their license, they've got the extra time and revenue, but you take a whole lot of people that are starting a family, or they're serving our country, or their work schedule just doesn't allow for them to get away. Maybe they're younger hunters, they don't even have a driver's license. They're really depending on kind of YouTube right now and just listening to podcasts. And it's going to be really important that we all understand that a lot of people are getting a UPS or a FedEx package showing up on their front porch, and we're sending them aerial, and we want them to be safe. But at the same time, the practical aspect of it, budget wise, I will be the first to tell you that it's probably the most expensive way to go in up front initially to hunt from an elevated position. But in the long run, by the time you look at all of your stands that you could possibly have in inventory and straps and the aspect of that stuff being out in the weather, I think safety wise and budget wise, convenience wise, storage, especially I think back of like when I was in college, or times that I was living in an apartment or sharing rental houses, as a young man growing up and getting my feet underneath me and getting my life established. A lot of times I didn't have all the budget in the world. I didn't have all the space in the world. I didn't have all the time in the world. And I wasn't hunting prime places either. I was hunting a lot of here and there and anywhere places. And that that aspect of Tree Stand Safety Institute and and Tree Stands Manufacturer Association and all these things. We've got to remember that when you start saddle hunting, basically, if you can carry a backpack and you can take your pocket knife out and cut your safety harness in half, that's basically all that you need to enter the woods. And I've packed a lot of climbing stands in, and climbing stands have their places. And I've packed a whole lot of very light, uh, lock-on stands in the woods and different types of steps over the years. But as far as the convenience of everything and learning and doing things in the dark, the saddle has this. It's the opportunity for people to not have headaches that I went through hunting from traditional tree stands and ground blinds as a young person. That it's just not there. So besides the safety of it, um, the very aggressive striking method that I feel like we use to truly go in and fill a tag and not hopefully fill a tag or go in with the mindset, I hope I see a deer. We know that when we set up in the places that we do, that we're in deer, and it could happen tonight or happen, today or whenever. Um, I hope folks see that they can avoid things. You can do when you're standing there on your step, you see what your view is versus where this little spot or this little knot in the tree is. It's going to be up against your back all day, or whether or not this or that is self-leveling or self-adjusting, or whether or not you need to trim shooting lanes or branches. I mean, the saddle, just the easiest way to describe it to people, it's like using a lineman's belt going up, setting up your lock-ons, but you just never make that final transition of coming off your last step and stepping over into a stand platform. And you're always trying to look or put yourself in an advantage of cover and camouflage. So height, a lot of times, I feel like on the saddle you can get away with a lot because you're actually behind the tree instead of in front of the tree. I think that you can utilize the terrain. I think you can utilize the branching, and you're not necessarily sticking out off the side of the tree like you are in a traditional deer stand. And I think once folks start getting comfortable with that, it's changing to the whole story or scenario of what is the proper height to hunt at, or where is the right spot to hunt today, or which stand should I go to. It's just, man, it's such an awesome subject. It's such an awesome way to hunt. And I feel like it gives hunters more confidence. I feel like it is a safer way to hunt overall. I feel like it's going to allow people to um, understand truly getting back to hunting. We can all debate like baiting or what's taking place with CWD or anything else, but a man or a woman puts on a saddle, uh, and if they're following people that are hunting from a saddle, and that's who they're learning from, then what they're learning is you hunt fresh sign, and you hunt transition areas, and you hunt edge, and you adapt with the season, and you consider the wind, and you look at what the weather is, and you go in and you make strategic moves and you plan your hunts out, but you also are thinking on your feet the day of, the minute of, that morning. When you see deer movement, you're automatically you're down and out of your saddle, and you're able to go and gain access to where the deer are going to move that afternoon. And the face the fact, it's just a lot more convenient than tearing down a 13-pound stand or a 25-pound stand and rattling 30 and $40 metal stick steps that we've all used pins on and ratchet straps, and taking it all the way over there and setting it up. And then you get up there and you get it all strapped down, and you go to step on a step and something's squeaking, or something's rusty. And I guess what I'm getting at is most all your saddle accessories are going to be some type of cast frame aluminum or true aluminum, in a tubing style. And we're using a lot of very, high end grade aluminum. So we're lightweight. We're looking at things that a lot of times are using stainless components, and there's thousands of different tips for, uh, you know, adapting to what works best for you, whether that's aiders or making this knob or that knob, or how to hang your bow. And um, I guess what I'm getting at is, like I said, we all have a lot to learn, and consistent, you know, hunters as far as putting game down. I don't think they ever give up that aspect of always being willing to learn and adapt, and realize that there's a way to build a better mouse trap or use a different bait other than cheese.
Absolutely. And one of the things you and I were talking about is, you know, guys going on hunting trips and everybody having to bring a tree stand with as well. Like you were talking about how great it is to, have three guys in a pickup truck and be able to have all your gear in there without tree stands taking up all the space. You can actually put the coolers in the back of the truck and doing all that stuff. And I think that's great. Like the fact that I can have my sticks and my platform strapped to the back of my backpack, my layers inside, sleeping bag, whatever else, just like you're going to do a Western hunt or whatever, so you can backpack in, have that saddle right in there and a pocket on the backpack, and have everything else strapped to it. That's huge for me, and a lot of other people that want to go and do that adventure hunt somewhere, or backpack like into Shawnee and do a 3-day hunt out of your tent. That
Yeah.
definitely changes the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody that's listening to this that's ever been on any type of, you know, uh, hey, we're going to the cabin, or hey, we're going out of state to hunt, and you take a full size truck and, crew cab, 4 doors, full size, and everybody's packed up good and tight, and everybody's got everything organized before they go. But you got a bow case, or you got a few, firearms and a duffel bag here or there. Everybody's got a backpack. You're trying to think about coolers. You probably got a deer cart. So what I'm getting at is, everybody knows right now that's been on that trip before how nice it was to get back home and just get in your own truck to have a little bit of space, because you're feeling everybody, you're smelling everybody, and everybody's gear ends up everywhere by the end of the trip. And you're always going to have that one guy that never picks up his stuff and drives you absolutely bonkers. And you finally get to the point to where you streamline and make things logistically work out. So a person that's thinking about this right now, and what I'm getting at, and I try to tell people, utilize your truck space. That's a whole nother subject. You've got all these little, shelves or storage areas. You've got a center console. You've got, a molded door piece to, put this or that. Utilize your space as efficiently as you can, where your toothbrush goes, where your underwear goes, where your socks go, where your gold bond goes, and extra arrows and broadheads and releases, whatever it is. Just, you know, strategically pack that truck or whatever vehicle you take. Well, with these saddles and your platforms and your sticks, same way. We got so many cool 10 and 15 and $20 innovations that we can buy to help wrap and tie stuff up and secure stuff down and cinch it down. And then there's, folks like me and you and others that, we used a piece of wire, or, we save this or that off of some packaging that, doesn't cost anything, and we use it as a twist tie, or whatever it is. But you start putting everything together in a truck, And next thing you know, you can hunt out of it and live out of it, and you're not pulling stands and stuff across people's duffel bags and ripping stuff and cutting hands and dropping people off and making all kinds of racket, from this point or that point, and you're not doing that constant truck shuffle, and the point of it is you're mobile, and I truly believe that once you adapt to the aspect of utilizing hunting from a saddle as a style of hunting, I think you kind of get out of that comfortable. Well, my stand's already hung. I'll just walk over there and hunt it one more time. I mean, I've got to admit, and I'm sure you can too, and others, that there are times that there's, memories and experiences where I walked to and where I hunted was not the best spot to go. It was just a spot that was already pre-executed, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and a cup of coffee wasn't doing it. So, I just kind of climbed up that set of sticks or that ladder, or got my climber, and just kind of sat there and hunted because I wanted to hunt. But there's times that I can admit that I've not put in the energy and the effort and stayed on my A game, because I've not paid attention to my nutrition or my sleep on a trip, and that's things that you work on as you age and get more wisdom. But you got that saddle, and each day is an adventure, and you don't have a lot of time to set up. That's you're saving space. People, they're dumping out of the truck, they're going. You got two or three other people that you got to drop off. Once you include yourself, and um, that aspect of it is really nice. And if you hunt somewhere and you don't like what's going on, you're between your sticks and your saddle and your platform and your gear. I would bet that on average, by the time you take water, food, clothing, gear, I would say the average saddle hunter's putting 22 pounds on his back, 22 to 25 pounds. It's just doing it and not really thinking about, where they could drop weight or how much more efficient they can be. And I gather that and average that up by just looking at, whether they're a 2-stick, 3-stick hunter, or if they're using aiders, or if they're packing, some peanuts or a bottle of water, if they have, their grunt call or their horns in their pack. I mean, whether they're a buckle or, you know, um, a new, more innovative style or way of, a more modern strap. I think we all can agree that most people going in with a saddle, your lightweights are probably coming in around 12 pounds, and your average folks are coming in around 25. So it's a
Yeah.
fast, convenient, quick way to hunt out of a backpack, and that's what I'm getting at. If you can, whatever you can think about putting in a backpack, extra gear, extra clothing, food, water, uh, actual true saddle, all your ropes, uh, and and what you need, bow hangers and all that. You can a good $30 backpack, from any type of retail store that is somewhat tactical, uh, built or laid out with a MOLLE system and just a fairly large cargo container and a waist strap. You don't have to go out here and buy a $300 specialty backpack. I mean, there's features that
Don't
are
talk.
nice, but you can, yeah,
Don't don't
and you can, yeah,
don't
yeah,
tell me
yeah,
that because I went the opposite
yeah,
direction. But um,
yeah.
I like to do a little bit of Western hunting too. So naturally, I wanted a pack that I could use for both.
Mm-hmm.
Maximize my money on it and use it, but at the same time, sometimes I mean, I don't want to drag a deer out 3 miles. I just don't want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to do it. So I wanted a pack that I could
Right.
also pack it out like a Western style hunting pack, and I ended up going with an initial ascent pack, and it's got like a carbon fiber external frame, and you can change out the bag to a 2K, a 4K, or a 6K bag with a pannier if you want, and all the other stuff on it. And so that's what I ended up going with. And just this last weekend, if you look on my Instagram page on Monday, I packed out an entire deer on my pack, and no BS. Even though it was only a year and a half, 2.5 year old deer, it wasn't like it was a super old doe or anything. But at the same time, I packed out the entire deer by myself and it wasn't even that bad. I didn't even notice really that the weight changed any differently on my pack from carrying my stands and my regular gear just because of the way it carried the load. So I'm
Yeah.
one of them guys that
And
kind
that's
of kind of goes with that, you know, and it's not something you need or you have to have, but if you're looking, like in my opinion, if you're looking to buy a pack and you have the income to buy it and you plan on doing like multiple hunts, I would look at something that you can use for both. And I think that's kind of key for you know, a lot of people if they plan on doing some other stuff besides that, or say you're going to North Dakota or you know whatever. I can carry a lot of stuff in there if I need to, or I could put a 2K bag on with no lid and trim it down, but still have all my hunting stuff and know I have the capability of carrying out a whole deer.
right, right. And with what's going on right now with collaborations of states as far as trying to pinpoint and figure out, what the development and beginnings of CWD is appearing in certain states and other states that have been dealing with it for a while. I think in the next 5 years, I think there's two things that we've talked about that you're going to see just as a norm, um, as a grunt call and a regular lock on tree stand. And that is, I think you're going to see the average hunter invest in a pack frame. And I'm talking about hunters, Michigan, Indiana, Iowa, Southeast, all through the East Coast that are not traditional big game hunters or have not traditionally hunted in the West and truly understand what it means to break down game or quarter it out or debone. I think as the states start to regulate how carcasses are moved and how CWD is being managed individually by each DNR or state and game agency, the hunter is going to have to develop and learn and perfect the skill of deboning and minimum at least learn how to quarter a deer. And the cool thing about that is if as you start doing that, you start talking about like your pack. I mean, there's definitely tools out there that make it to where it's not you're doing work, but it's almost like kind of an enjoyable pleasure reward that you get from that type of work because you've had a successful hunt. You're going off of what's being secreted through your body as far as just a high from hormones and hard work and staying alive on whatever caffeine or food that you're putting in your body. So um, it's easy to kind of pack out, 200 pounds of meat or 60 pounds of meat when you've had a little, I guess, get up in your step because you've punched that tag and had a successful hunt. And the saddle's the other thing. I think that hunters are going to adapt, and I think that as we grow, I think as production goes up, and like anything in business, as volume increases, costs will go down. Just the same way it has, in, for example, like cell cameras or uh, trail cameras in general. And you have more people competing for a consumer. They're going to realize that some people are going to have a budget and they're going to have to create a better product or the best product on what the consumer's budget is. And where it's such a people say, well, man, it's just deer hunting. You stick to the basics, but there really is a lot of things that are changing, and those changes are going back to the basics. People are understanding how to hunt sign more. They're understanding how to process their game more, and some of those things have come because of the changes in our sport. People say they have less private places to hunt and access, so public ground has got just a tremendous increase of interest, and we've done a great job with advocating and doing social media type projects to inform people of kind of what to expect on public ground and how to hunt public ground. And then you've got the aspect that we have some health concerns, not only that are or could have a tremendous impact on our deer herd, elk and antelope or mule deer or whatever, but also our agricultural market. And there's going to be, I think, a big increase from a lot of your insurance companies that do secure farmers' crops and their livestock. When you look at things that are a zoonotic disease that, could be spread from, bovine to deer, deer to bovine or whatever, that there's going to be that political voice involved there. So I think, that's going to help, gain traction with our political people and make our regulations, like I said earlier, more liberal. And you're going to have to start shooting more does, and we're going to have to control our deer population, I think, and look at carrying capacity, because once you get past that, consumer aspect, that people are going to have to buy a frame pack, and they're going to have to learn how to debone their animals. So, maybe knife sales or, field care supplies, it goes up, and then they start adapting to the saddle. At the end of the day, Luke, people have to remember that we have to have a species to hunt, and we've got to have locations to go and hunt, and we're going to have to make some changes, whether we like them or not. And we're really, 10 years ago, we were talking about where gun hunters and crossbow hunters and traditional archery equipment and, this or that, firearm or weapon, we all need to come together as a community of hunters. But, right now we're going to have to come together as hunters with the mindset of conservation. And we're going to have to look a little differently at baiting laws, and we're going to have to look a little differently at, when our season dates are, or whether or not, centerfire rifles are allowed, or special seasons are allowed to harvest more does later in the year. Because, I'll tell you this, and this is the good thing that we talked about before the podcast, is when you listen to other people speak, you don't have to agree with them, but it will at least trigger your brain to think about, what am I doing right, or what am I doing wrong, or what can I take from this podcast or YouTube video and apply it to make me a better hunter or outdoorsman. But when we look at CWD and what we know about CWD, I do believe that when the truth comes out, and we're transparent, and the game agencies inform the hunters, you're going to see that if the state truly trusts their deer biologists, that having a big mature trophy deer herd is not going to be on par and in favor of helping control CWD, because of what we do know about the age structure of bucks, and their percentage of actually being more acceptable to getting CWD as they age. And there's a lot of states. I'm fixing to go to Tennessee next weekend, and I talked with a really good friend of mine last night, and I just asked him, I was like, man, does anybody even shoot does anymore in the state of Tennessee? Because and there's a lot of states like that. Wisconsin, I wonder, and I've been up through Michigan, turkey hunting and just traveling with work and doing different things. And man, you just see deer everywhere. I mean, just absolutely everywhere, to the point to where it's really not a challenge to see deer. They're just there. And I think that's the aspect of that is, how does that incorporate the saddle hunting? Well, you get up here and you hunt this little 4-acre wood block, and you get done. You don't need to hang a permanent stand and put 3 hours of work in there trimming, shooting lanes, and you're not hunting a rut funnel there, and you're not going to be sitting there, during the prime time of November. You're just going in to hunt and help balance the ecosystem and control the deer population. So on the conservation note, that soapbox is for folks that are listening is shoot a few does and enjoy the protein that they give us, and understand the checks and balance system and carrying capacity. Because we need to look at our gear. We need to look at this strategy and that strategy, but we got to remember at the end of the day, we've got to manage our resources, and we need to stick to doing what's best for the species, and not what's best for us sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, the quota numbers need to actually be looked at, but also it's hard for me sometimes because I feel like certain states and their biologists are biased, and it's not biased because of actual herd health. It's because of external influences from either politicians or insurance companies or whatever it may be, to lower numbers without actually considering the health of the herd. And
Yeah.
that's a whole different gamut of things we could probably get into, Scott, that would go a
Oh, it
whole
is.
different direction. But to me, it seems like most states out west tend to care and track more about the actual numbers, even though most of the time it seems no matter where it is or what it is, by the time it actually happens or the regulations go into place, because you're dealing with bureaucrats, and bottom line is they don't move at a lightning pace unless it's something to benefit them. It seems like that a lot of times the herd does suffer for a year or two before things actually get done about it.
Yeah, it's we I support all the fish and game agencies. And here lately, I think a lot of us that are, trying to get involved and give back and be active in our sport and the species that we hunt. Um, Unfortunately, sometimes when we talk about managing bucks, it's not the ones that are on a hoof. We're managing, billions of dollars. I mean, whitetail deer is the number one hunted game species in North America, and what it means to our revenue. Um, it's unbelievable. And behind closed doors, people uh, do not want to lose revenue. Whether that's through license sales or not having game to hunt, whether it's CHD or CWD or whatever it is. And then that what kind of happens in our whitetail world with the revenue and economy is really kind of what funds and sponsors a whole lot of other things. So whether a person's a whitetail hunter or not, there's a whole lot of PR dollars, Pittman Robinson dollars that are, going towards the act and progress of conservation, um, to help other species as well. So it's a man, it's a dangerous topic, and anytime that you get involved politically, um, things start going downhill real quick. It's not a Republican or Democrat debate. It's just the fact of, do we have good, honest people representing us and making sound decisions for hunting and conservation? And the answer to that, I don't know anymore. Um, I hope that we do, and I hope that the NGOs that we all try to help out or belong to, I hope things are going in the right direction. But at the end of the day, Luke, and I know that you know we we don't necessarily always keep up with every dollar that's raised or earned or taxed. What percentage of that is going to a salary or a a vehicle or a research project or purchasing public land. So going on the aspect of what we do as hunters, we just need to not ever lose focus that we need to enjoy the sport. We need to change our tactics, but we need to stay involved and stay connected with what's going on, not only politically on the national level, but just locally. What we can do to help, or what struggles are going on, and give back to something that we all tremendously care about, and just not be a taker uh, from the consumptive aspect of harvesting game, but also be a volunteer and a person who is definitely giving more than they're taking in general. When you look at your annual year or your lifespan of what your legacy is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great point that you made, and actually that's a pretty good spot to wrap it up here. Because I know we could go on all night and talk about a bunch of things, but the point that you made there, that we all need to give back and actually not just be a consumptive source, but a source of returning what we take back to the community and back to the environment, is a pretty good point. Before we go, would you like to tell everybody where they can find you, and if they want to reach out to you, talk to you, or maybe give you some questions or something like that? Um, give them all that information.
Yeah, I mean, basically on social media, you just search, I guess, for my name, Scott Cronin, and live in Western Kentucky. And if people want to reach out to you through your podcast and message them if there's anything that they would like to learn more about, or pick my brain on, or you know do whatever they want to do. I'll give you my cell phone number, and if they take the time and energy to reach out to you through a direct message through social media, you're more than welcome to share it with them. But I appreciate the opportunity to be on tonight, Luke. It's absolutely the best part of the year. I'm already losing sleep, trying to plan out my schedule, and we're in a just absolutely outstanding time to hunt whitetail deer. Mass crop seems to be really good across the country. Some people have dealt with drought, and some people are getting a lot of early season cool weather that is really getting deer up on their feet. And just to be honest with you, if anyone's listening to this, once it goes out there on the live platform to listen to, I would say all through the Midwest and at least through Kentucky, Indiana, all that, I'd say starting next Tuesday, that first week of November, through next Sunday, I think there's going to be a whole lot of happy hunters. We've got some 30-degree temperatures coming, so if you reach out to me, I'm either at work or in a tree stand in another state, because my Kentucky buck tag is done, and it's time to go help and volunteer, pull some CWD samples, and give my contribution back of buying some out-of-state hunting license and deer tags. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope you have a blessed season with a lot of success, and hope everybody's safe. That's the main thing. If you don't reach out to me, or if you don't reach out to Luke, if you have a question about hunting out of a saddle or any style of hunting that could possibly put you at risk or harm because you're just uneducated about what you're doing, please try to reach out to someone, whether that's your game warden or your state game and fish agency, with their outreach with hunter ed. Just don't be afraid to ask. It's hard I know you got men and women that both listen, but it's hard for a lot of grown men to walk up to another grown man and say, "Hey, I don't know how to do this." It hurts their pride. So
yeah, it is true though. There is no such thing as a stupid question. If you have doubt, find out. Because I believe that the risk isn't always worth the reward if you don't know what you're doing. So that's important.
So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Just figure out a way that we can hook up, and we'll talk side by side in a tree verse over the airwaves.
Absolutely. So, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.